Ivy went back to Los Angeles thinking she could finally get back her place in the family, the company, and Liam's heart. But what she had learned in the last few days was much worse. Someone close to her had been controlling events for years, quietly changing lives, breaking up relationships, and rewriting history. And Ivy had proof. The air inside the guest house was thick. Ivy walked around, going over conversations in her head. Steffi told half-truths. Ridge changed the subject, and Hope's face went pale when Ivy brought up an old design file that had mysteriously disappeared years ago. Until tonight, the pieces didn't make sense. There was a soft knock. "Ivy," a voice I knew called. Her stomach dropped. That person showing up first was a surprise to her. Before opening the door, Ivy thought about it. There was someone there who had once smiled at her like family, hugged her, defended her, and promised to be loyal to her. Now their eyes were sharp, calculating, and scared. "You shouldn't be here," Ivy said softly. The visitor said, "I could say the same," and then walked in without waiting for permission. "You're getting into things that aren't your business." Ivy laughed with anger. "Everything worries me when my life keeps falling apart." The door closed behind them with a final scary click. The secret Ivy revealed. That day, Ivy had broken into the old design archive at Forrester Creations. She was officially looking for early drafts of her Uncle Eric's jewelry line. She was following her gut feeling, which had once made her a rising star in fashion. There was a digital trail behind the mislabeled folders, changed timestamps, files that had been overwritten, and sketches that were wrongly credited to the wrong designers. Ivy knew with sickening certainty that someone had messed with her work years ago, taking credit for it and making sure she left the company. But it went further. There were also medical records, like hospital records from an accident that Ivy had always thought was just that, an accident. Someone had paid to keep parts of the report from being made public. Someone wanted Ivy to be scared, dependent, and weak. The betrayal hurt more than the competition. It was about them. A fight turns deadly. Ivy held up her phone when she got back to the guest house. "I know what you did." The other person's face lost all its color. They snapped. "You don't know anything. I know you changed the credits for the design. I know you paid a doctor. I know you used me," Ivy said, her voice shaking, but she didn't back down. "All so you could keep up the appearance of your perfect little life." There was a thick, suffocating silence between them. The person finally said, "You were never meant to find those files." Ivy's eyes filled with tears, not out of fear but out of sadness. "I believed in you. And that," they said coldly, "was your biggest mistake." The fight got out of hand very quickly. Years of anger came out in the form of accusations, justifications, and ugly truths that had been hidden under designer gowns and public smiles. Ivy moved toward the door, realizing all of a sudden that she was in danger. She said, "I'm going. And if something happens to me, those files will be made public." Panic flickered. There was a short, chaotic, and tragic fight after that. Ivy fell back and hit the edge of the glass table. "The noise made me sick." She fell to the floor, her breath shallow, and blood spread across the marble. The killer looked down at her in shock. "Ivy, I didn't mean." Ivy's eyes opened for the last time. "You always mean it," she said softly. And then she was gone. Shocking events in Los Angeles. A housekeeper found Ivy's body the next morning. Within hours, the Forrester estate was full of police, family, and reporters. Liam couldn't be comforted. He kept saying, "She was trying to start over. She told me she had something important to say." Hope thought it was her fault that she didn't make Ivy talk sooner. Ridge completely shut down, haunted by the idea that another young life had been lost under his roof. Steffi, on the other hand, was very quiet. Her face was hard to read, and her grief was strangely under control. Detectives ruled out burglary right away. There were no signs that someone had broken in. Ivy trusted the person who killed her. People began to suspect each other very quickly. Broken trust and red herrings. Everyone looked at Liam at first. Because of his complicated past with Ivy, he was an easy target, especially after it came out that he had fought with her days before she died. But his story held up. Then there was Hope. She had a reason: jealousy, unresolved tension, but no chance. When asked about the design files, Ridge got defensive. Eric was heartbroken when he found out about the sabotage. He swore he didn't know anything about it. The family fell apart because of guilt and blame. Steffi, on the other hand, watched everything happen from the sidelines. Too calm. The cracks start to show. Detective Sanchez saw that Steffi's timeline didn't add up. Little things like a phone call that was deleted, security footage that cut out for exactly 6 minutes, and a witness who saw her car near the guest house long after she said she was home. Steffi got angry when she was confronted. "You're wasting your time." But pressure makes things happen that are strange. Hope was the first to notice how Steffi flinched every time Ivy's name came up. The way she didn't look him in the eye. The way she got angry when anyone brought up the past. One afternoon, Hope quietly said, "You knew she was onto something." Steffi's eyes got hard. "Watch out. The truth comes out." Liam finally got the last piece of the puzzle when he got an email that Ivy had planned to send if she didn't check in. There were copies of the changed files, medical records, and one very bad message. "The person who hurt me is the same person who says they are protecting this family." Liam went straight to the police with the proof. Steffi was arrested within a few hours. The killer was found. Steffi finally broke down in the interrogation room. She cried, "I didn't mean to kill her. I just wanted her to stop." She told the truth about everything. The manipulation, the fear that Ivy would tell everyone about her past choices, and the panic she felt when Ivy said she would go public. Steffi whispered, "She was going to ruin everything. My family. My kids. My life." The detective spoke in a calm voice. "You ruined hers first." Aftermath. Steffi's arrest shocked the fashion world and the Forrester family. Ridge had a hard time putting together the daughter he loved with the woman who had killed someone. Hope was sad and angry about Ivy's death. Liam was broken, haunted by what could have been. There was a private memorial by the ocean. Ivy's ashes were thrown into the waves as a quiet goodbye for a woman who had fought too hard for a place she should never have lost. Ivy Forrester's death did what her life never could. It made the truth come out. And things would never be the same at Forrester Creations again. Liam couldn't look at her from across the room. Instead, he kept thinking about Ivy. The way she smiled when she was nervous and how hard she tried not to need anyone. The way she had said, "I just want the truth, Liam. No matter how much it hurts." It was the truth that killed her. Hope sat next to him with her hands clasped so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She hadn't cried since she was arrested. Not because she didn't want to, but because something inside her had turned cold. Ivy's death had more than one effect. It had broken the idea that the Forresters cared for their own out of love instead of fear. Rich sat behind Steffi, his heart broken. That was his daughter down there. That person down there was a killer. Rich Forrester didn't know which truth was stronger for the first time in his life. The trial that split the family up. The prosecution painted a terrible picture. Changing files. Coercion in medicine. A history of intimidation masked as family loyalty. They didn't say Steffi was a monster. They said something worse. That she was logical. The prosecutor said calmly, "She didn't snap. She did the math. And when the math didn't work, she freaked out." Ivy Forrester didn't die because she was angry. She died because she knew too much. Steffi's lawyer was very angry, but it was too late. Everyone in the courtroom looked at Steffi. She didn't move. But when Ivy's last message played, her voice was shaky but strong and something broke. Hope put her hand over her mouth. Liam shut his eyes. Rich thought he was going to drown. Steffi's own hell. Steffi couldn't sleep in her holding cell at night. The quiet was louder than any scream. She saw Ivy everywhere. In shadows, in reflections, and even in the spaces between breaths. Ivy didn't blame her. Didn't yell. Didn't ask for anything. She just looked at her with disappointment. Ivy's voice echoed in her head saying, "You always had to win. Even when no one else was competing." Steffi put her hands over her ears, but the guilt had already set in. For the first time in her life, having power didn't keep her safe. It didn't matter what your status was. Behind steel bars, her name meant nothing. And the worst part was that her kids weren't there. Ridge chooses. Ridge went to see Steffi once. One time only. He said, "I love you," with a broken voice. "But I won't lie for you." Steffi's eyes were full of pain. "So you trust them?" "I think Ivy is dead," Rich said in a low voice. "And I think you were the last person to see her." That's all it took. Steffi looked away. The distance between them was permanent. A second secret comes out. People thought the worst had been revealed, but then something else came up. An ex-Forrester accountant came forward with proof of an offshore account. Payments that didn't match any known transactions. The dates were close to Ivy's early career and another scandal that had been forgotten for a long time. Another woman. A different way to hide it. Detectives started to think that Ivy's death might not have been Steffi's first desperate act, but it was the first one that went too far. The family was scared. How much do we not know? Hope whispered. Eric, who was old and broken, looked out at the ocean. He said, "Too much. And it cost us one of our own." The decision. The jury talked about it for 3 days. The room held its breath when they came back. Not guilty. The word hit like a bullet. Steffi's calm finally broke. Not with screams, but with a quiet animal-like cry that slipped out before she could stop it. Liam didn't feel better. Nothing but emptiness. Ivy's legacy. Months later, Forrester Creations showed off a new line of Ivy's designs, which were brought back to life. No big deal. No speeches. A small plaque in the main studio. Ivy Forrester. The truth matters. Hope stood there alone for hours, running her fingers over the letters. She won, Hope said softly. At the end, you won. The city lights came on outside just like they did the night Ivy died. Life went on. But nothing was clean anymore. And behind concrete walls, Steffi Forrester finally got what Ivy had known all along. Some secrets don't stay hidden. What the grave didn't hold after Ivy's sudden death. Steffi Forrester lost everything that made her who she was in prison. Her name, her power, and her reflection in glass walls and glossy magazines. She was just another prisoner with a number sewn onto her uniform, and a crime that everyone talked about behind her back. But fame comes with money. And secrets bring in money. Steffi learned something scary within a few weeks. Not all of Ivy's files had been found. There were still pieces of Ivy's truth moving outside those walls. A visitor who shouldn't be here. The guard said it in a flat voice. Someone is here to see you. Steffi frowned. Ridge was no longer coming. Eric couldn't make himself go see her. Liam had said no right away. Hope wouldn't even say her name. Who is it? Steffi asked. The guard didn't say anything. Steffi's breath caught when she walked into the visiting room. The woman on the other side of the glass wasn't related to me. She was calm but dangerous. The woman picked up the phone and said softly, "You don't know me." But Ivy did. Steffi's heart started to race. "Who are you?" The woman said, "My name doesn't matter. Ivy trusted me with insurance and that's what matters." Steffi got cold. Insurance. The woman went on. Ivy was very careful. She thought that the truth shouldn't die with her if something happened to her. She was correct. Steffi's voice shook. "What's your problem?" A smile that came slowly. "Justice doesn't matter to me. Leverage does. The past comes back outside." Hope couldn't sleep when she got back to Los Angeles. She kept dreaming about Ivy, not as she was at the end, but as she was when she first got to the city. Hopeful, determined, and lonely in a way that Hope knew all too well. Hope's hands shook when she got a plain envelope slipped under her door. There were copies of designs inside that were definitely Ivy's and dated years before anyone else had seen them. There was also a handwritten note with them. "You were nicer to me than most people. Please finish what I couldn't." Hope knew exactly what it meant. She gave Liam the proof. She said softly, "This isn't over." Liam's face got darker as he looked at the papers. "No. Now it's starting again. The end of a dynasty." The press came down harder than ever. Headlines not only questioned Steffi's crime, but also the whole Forrester legacy. How many careers had been quietly ruined? How many women had been pushed aside to keep up appearances and stay in charge? The sponsors backed out. Designers quit. For the first time in decades, Forrester Creations was about to go out of business. Eric called a meeting right away. His voice shook. He said, "We built this house on family and creativity. If that foundation is bad, then we deserve what happens next." Rich didn't say anything. He had begun to drink again. A dangerous partnership in prison. Steffi learned how power really worked while in prison. It cost money to get protection. Mara, a sharp-eyed lifer who ran Steffi's cell block, made an unspoken deal. Safety in exchange for favors. Data. Effect. Mara said one night, "You're not weak. You thought you could do anything." Steffi swallowed hard. "What do you want?" Mara moved closer. "Who else helped you?" It was like a knife to the heart. Steffi knew the truth. She wasn't acting alone all the time. The name Steffi never spoke. Steffi finally broke down late one night when the lights were flickering. She said a name softly into the dark. A name that police reports had never mentioned. A name that would ruin what little family they had left. Hope's decision. Hope stood in the design studio after it was closed, looking at Ivy's work. She could feel her presence not as a ghost but as a push. That night Hope made a choice. She told everyone everything. Not in a selective way. Not safely. All of it. The truth spread through the business like fire. Careers ended in a flash. There were lawsuits. Settlements that were quiet came up. And the name Steffi had whispered started to show up all over the place. Someone strong. Someone was safe. Someone is still free. The last message. Liam got one last email on the anniversary of Ivy's death. No one sent it. No subject. Just an attachment for a video. The screen was full of Ivy's face. Ivy said in a calm voice, "If you see this, then someone thought they could get rid of me. They were wrong." The video went black. Then there was text. "There is more than one killer in the truth." Liam stared at the screen, his breath coming in short bursts. Steffi Forrester felt the change in the air from a long way away, behind locked doors and concrete walls. The kind that happens before everything falls apart. And for the first time since Ivy died, Steffi wasn't scared of going to jail. She was scared of what was going to happen next.